What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. In my discourse about mislabeling Pan-Africanism and hateful FBAs and ungrateful, hateful, xenophobic continental Africans, a conversation in the comment section came up. It was about how much, Africans send home to Africa because some of them challenge the fact that I said they don't do nothing. Now, keep in mind, I'm very specific about what I'm talking about. I'm very specific. So when I'm talking, you got to understand and comprehend what I'm saying. I'm talking about those that do that. And understand, I'm from the DMV. We African Americans here in the DMV grew up with Africans. We've been going to the goddamn ice cream truck with Africans, sharing dollars and shit. All right. We went to middle school, elementary school, kindergarten with these same African families. We in this area, we are intimately involved with our brothers and sisters. And we know what they see. We work with them. We go to church with them. We do everything with them. They are our family members. They're a part of us. They are integrated with us. So everything I talk about is through lived experience and through the testimonies of them themselves. And within their own communities, they fight back and forth on whether they should send money back home or not. They send money. There's a lot of Africans who've been sending money to their parents, sending money to their sisters, sending money to their brothers, back to Africa, right? You know where that money goes? It goes for fuel for the generator. It goes for food to the market because anybody got no refrigerators, right? In most places. So they go to the grocery store every 2 days. They go to the market every 2 days. They're spending money on transport, school fees, various different things. Things that I actually do because I'm a taxpayer member of Nigerian society. I'm also a part of my age group in my village. I'm an integral part of my community. I don't just be playing for YouTube. I'm really in there like that, right? So what I'm going to tell you guys is it's much more complicated than a lot of you guys like to admit. On top of that, the financial education in Africa is lackluster. The same way the financial education in the African American community is lackluster. The school systems, the Western school systems, don't teach us how to use money, right? And so we are always and constantly on survival mode. That's why people put value, like African Americans, we put value in looking rich instead of getting rich. Same thing goes for the continent of Africa. Really, same thing goes for everywhere. Everybody has the same remittance problem. Latinos got the same problem. Asians got the same problem. Europeans got the same problem who come from Eastern Europe and poorer parts of Europe who come here for the better life or get a job and send money back home. So it's not an exclusive African problem. This is a problem when somebody leaves their homeland, goes somewhere for a better life, because they're expected to succeed, right? They're expected to excel, to exceed on that commercial level. They're expected to get that American dream or that British dream or that Canadian dream they saw on TV, the propaganda. So if they don't achieve that, they don't want to go home because they're embarrassed. A lot of Nigerians, a lot of people from Ghana, Ethiopia, South Africa, any African at all, because we're speaking about Africans, are embarrassed to go home because to go home is to fail. The mere fact that you try to move home, you failed. Because why would you want to leave America? Because you got to understand the propaganda that America pushes out. That America is the greatest place on the planet. Did you see how those Europeans acted when they came to FIFA and they got to eat some of the retarded food that we got to eat every day that we take do you think is real food? And they came over here and they was eating it was like drugs. They was getting addicted. Just the food. We talking about Taco Bell, y'all. That's bottom of the barrel. Bottom of the barrel, and they think that's luxury because they're not used to so much stimuli. So just like anybody else, they come over here to get comfortable. A lot of Africans are comfortable. I know a lot of Africans who are very comfortable, and they be damned if they go back to Africa and have to deal with any of that situation. On top of that, they come here and they get trapped in that bill cycle. Once you get trapped in the bill cycle, something you don't have in Africa, something you don't have necessarily in certain parts of Asia. When you come over here, you get trapped in that repetitive bill cycle. Guess what? Now all that money that you was making, all that success you got, guess what? That goes towards your monthly bills. So on top of your monthly bills, now your parents expect you to fund their life. Because them having you and busting their ass, right, in them fields to send you to a Western school, right, in order for you to succeed was their retirement plan. But when you come here and you get burnt out by the Western system, you get tired of sending them money. And then you say, okay, let me build something. A lot of y'all go out there, y'all say, I'm going to build a family house. I'm going to leverage this U.S. money, and I'm going to build something massive in Africa because if you have a cooperative individual in Africa, you can do that. But what happens when they do that? they find out that they've been sending money home for 10 years. They've been in Germany for 10 years, sending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. They've been in Canada. They've been in the U.S., sending money back home for 10 years, thousands and thousands, thinking they building compounds, thinking they building businesses. And then one time they get on the plane when they get 2 weeks off after busting their ass for several years, and they go home and find out that nothing that was supposed to be done was done with their money, and that the people that was closest to them, that they've been taking care of for decades, squandered the money, living high off the hog, thinking that the money was going to keep coming because they think that their kids are rich. They think money grows on trees, right? So you got people here sitting here that's like, you know what? I'm going to cut them off. Cut them off. They cut their whole family off. People, you think remittance, just because people send money back $100 and something billion or $100 and something million back to Africa, you think that money is being used properly? You think that money is being used to invest and develop? No, that money is being burnt. That money is being used to go right into the ecosystem that takes the money in Africa and sends that shit right back to Asia and sends that shit right back to Europe. So miss me with that, because if that was the case, all the remittance that Africans have been sending to Africa, Africa should have been developed just based off the remittance. All the remittance those Latinos have been sending to Mexico and El Salvador and Guatemala, Central America should be built up. Should be a top tier goddamn all of them should be top tier countries. You want to talk about remittances? Are you out of your mind? Remittances is wasted money. It's social welfare that we give to our parents thinking we're doing something. And every now and then you may get a responsible family that understands economics or understands the sacrifice that their children make, and they actually take that money and do something with it. Or maybe that the person has to micromanage. You got to put cameras and security cameras. You got to visit every 2 weeks, and you got to be on top of your family to make sure they don't steal your shit. This is a real thing. So yeah, it's real complicated. It's real messy out there. So remittance is not gonna work. That remittance doesn't do anything but continue and perpetuate the same problems we got. You sending money home doesn't mean you building Africa. All you doing is taking care of your mommy and your daddy and your sister and your brother. All you doing is throwing your money away thinking they building a compound and a business just to find out they just blew it. And what you gonna do? Because guess what? When you go there for 2 weeks, they can just go ahead and disappear. What you can't, you gotta go back to work. What you gonna do? Quit your job and stay there and wait for your sister to come down from the village so you can hold him accountable? What you gonna do? They can just run away. You can't find them. Your ass got to go back to work. You got to get back on that plane because you bought a 2-way ticket, and you got to take your ass back to Canada, back to Germany, and ain't shit you can do because you sent the money. They ain't do nothing illegal as far as the law is concerned. You can't hold them accountable. What you gonna do to your mama and your daddy because they spent the money? What? They raised you. They gonna tell you how hard they work and that you should be lucky that you even making that money. They gonna throw that shit in your face. And that's the kind of shit that happens. So that's what we gonna talk about today, right? We gonna keep this shit going, right? For all of you Africans who are over here, because there are a lot of Africans that go back. All right. And I have inspired a lot of Africans to go back. You know why? Because they email me. You know why? Because they tell me. You know why? Because I be in Nigeria at the airport and they would pull me to the side and tell me I did just as much. So I know what's up. I don't just talk out my ass. I don't just talk for clicks and views. I don't talk to clout chase. I'm talking the real shit because it's real. You either going to handle it or not. That ain't my problem. I'm giving you the truth. You deal with it. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comment section. Afro Think Tank, learn some, teach some. I'm out.
I knew I was never going to send money back home when my mom gave my family money, a couple bills, to go and put into the house that we're building back in Zim. Sending money every month, we're thinking we have a house being built. How's the house? How's it coming up? It's good. Get to Zim. There's no house. The money was spent on luxuries, bags, food, the church. There was no house. No house. And no money.
West African immigrants, please stop making this poor financial decision. Oftentimes amongst the older generation, I see them spending every cent that they've ever made abroad, building these elaborate houses back in their home country that they don't ever get to live in, or maybe live in for maybe 1 week out of the year. Yet when I look at the conditions that they're living in the country of their primary resident, it is abhorrent, to be honest. And I'm always thinking, like, why aren't you investing that money into building something or getting something stable for where you're living full-time, like where your primary resident is? And then if you have a surplus, then focus on building a secondary home back in your home country. But a lot of our people go ahead and spend every cent to build these mansions. And a lot of times there's other relatives that end up living in these houses and they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their labors. I don't know where this phenomenon started, but I need us to stop that because you cannot live abroad full time. Where this is coming from is I saw a Facebook post where a lady said that she regretted building a house back in Liberia. It was a waste of money and effort. And I thought the comments would understand. Everybody was like, it's not a waste to build a house back in your home country. I would say, yeah, it's not a waste to build a house back in your home country. But what she is saying is that she's probably not established herself in the country that she primarily lives in. And she doesn't get to enjoy the house that she's built back home. But oftentimes you spend $150,000 to build something for yourself back home, and you have no foundation in the country that is your primary resident. We're living in these abhorrent conditions. So I think I need more of us to shift our focus into building something with a strong foundation here before thinking about, if at all, building something back in our home countries.
Sending money back home or to your extended family is such a common African practice that I absolutely hate. I saw my dad doing it, and I don't even know any of my extended family. I saw him doing it with his brothers, with his sisters, with his grandparents, parents, like everyone in the family. As long as you have a job, they expect you to share that money accordingly. And that is just something I will not be participating in. I already knew I would never participate in this. Like, how do you come and tell me, oh, my kids are starving? Yeah, they're starving because you're fucking lazy. Get off your ass, get a job, and feed your kids. And also, there's this one like extended family member of ours, and she used to ask my dad for money, and she texted me and she asks me for money. You've been asking my dad for money since before I was born. I was raised, I grew up. Now you're asking me for money. You lazy son of a bitch. I'm not fitting your habits. Clearly you're too lazy to be alive. I will let you starve. The fuck?
So there was a creator that came on here and said how she would never send money back home and how she had a multitude of reasons why and this, that, and the third. And as a second generation immigrant, this sparked my interest because my entire life I've watched my mom send money back home and I've seen the effects of it, and I kind of want to speak about it in a little bit more detail. So a bit of context, my mom raised me and my 3 siblings by herself in South London, and that's already a strain in itself. But then she also was sending £200, £300, £400 a month home to our family just to make sure they're straight and that they're doing well for themselves. And as a Muslim, that's always a blessing. You're providing charity, sadaqah, you're helping your family back home. I'm never going to dish you for doing that, right? However, as you grow up, you start to see how that financial strain on your mom or your parents starts to affect her and it starts to affect your family. And I'm going to talk about them. So number one, a lot of the parents that we have that were sending money back home were sending money that they didn't even have. Some parents were taking out loans. Some parents were not paying bills just to make sure the people back home are patterned. And it's a blessing, but at the same time, it's you yourself are not sorted. So why are you trying to sort someone else? Does that make sense? And number two, are we sure that the money that we have sent back home is being spent on what it was supposed to be spent on? Because I can give you hundreds of stories of how like a house was supposed to be built in a country, but when we go back to that country to see on the progress on that house, nothing is there, or the money has been completely spent on absolute nonsense. So for those reasons, I completely understand why people have decided that they're never going to send money back home. However, for me, I'm still going to send money back home for the following reason. If someone's in need, whether they need help with their hospital fees, whether they need help with educational fees, or, just to get them like a phone or shoes or just something to make their life that much better, I'm always going to be in favor of it, because if you have it and you want to give it, I don't see a problem with it. And secondly, and probably the deciding factor, I've actually gone to Guinea. I've seen where my family live. I've seen the lack of resources, the lack of opportunity, and I've seen poverty. Like, I've seen it with my own eyes. So when they ask me, well, can you get me this phone, or could you throw me this amount of bread, or my mom's asking, send this amount of money for this person because of this, I don't tend to question it, because I see how hard it is out there. And if I know that the person is genuine and they're in actual need of support, I'll do so. So all in all, as long as I have those positive relationships with my family members, I will continue to send money back home and do what I can. And for those who won't, let me know in the comments. Let's have the discussion.
My African brothers, let me tell you something that most people don't talk about. The reason why most people come to America and they find it difficult to go back home to visit their family, do you know the reason why? Because it's so expensive. When you want to go home for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you have to plan to pay your bills here for like a month ahead because when you go, by the time you come back, most people are struggling to catch up the bill. So every time they think about that, most people don't want to go because they are scared, they are afraid that when they come back, it's going to be difficult for them to catch up. Those are the reasons why most people don't like taking that vacation.
A lot of Africans, they will be like, oh, you guys, you go to the UK, you get, even the international students, you guys, you go to the UK, you get education, you make all this money, come back and rebuild Africa, come back and rebuild Africa. And then it's like, okay, well, if we're going to come back and rebuild Africa, what money are we going to bring back into the economy? We're going to bring in pounds. So it's that exploitative. And I think that this region is such a good example of why I think that whole notion is nonsense, is because at the end of the day, a lot of these places that we are going into, their economies need more money. South Africa has an unemployment rate that is almost 50%. The economy needs more money. The economy needs more jobs. The problem is that when we as outsiders are bringing wealth into the country, it's only going into the hands of a select few number of people, and they are not sharing that wealth with the wider economy. So what actually needs to happen is that the government needs to put things in places. This whole region is built off of the back of international money that is coming in. But what happens is that the local people are not complaining 24/7 because they go to school for free, so they can actually see the benefits.
Okay, yes, there is this video that I watched from one of our Black American brother, right? So in that video, he said that why are we Africans coming to America, going to Caribbeans, going to England? Why can't we stay in our own country? That we have 54 countries in Africa. That why can't we at least go to neighboring countries? Just go to one of those countries in Africa instead of coming to America, and that they don't own us anything, you know, as African people. Bro, I feel you. I get you. You know, I feel you. I understand, you know, but the problem is that if you were in our position, you might do the same. Our leaders are not that responsible. Our leaders are not doing their best. It's not like we just want to blame our leaders. The thing is that Africans don't really have their own voice, because you can see the way France is taking everything from Africa. You can see that Africa is just like a place where everybody go and cut their own meat. All right. So that is the reason. And another thing is that you know that when it comes to Nigerians, Nigerian people, they have coconut head. Even if they say you have everything, Nigerians are still gonna travel. A lot of people want to explore just for their own personal reasons, you know. So people are always gonna travel. People are gonna go to places. So I will just tell you that Africans are lacking in so many areas. Okay, let me tell you, for instance, now we don't have good roads. We don't have electricity. As big as Nigeria is, we don't have electricity. We don't have reliable roads, you know, good transportation system. We don't have it. Okay, now another thing is that people can't even feed well. So tell me, why will people not want to move out of their country? Why will people not want to stretch to other places? And let me tell you another thing. Africa is one. Don't think, you might think, Togo will be the best. No, Africa is the same. The Africans are ruled by the Westerners. You know that. Even our leaders are just there like the figurehead, but they are not the one doing those things. So we need time for Africa to develop. We need time for Africa to just have their own voice. So, bro, just take it easy with us. Persevere with us. I feel you, but don't be angry, you know. So when I watched that video, I was like, okay, let me just say something about it, because the person kept sending me videos. I said, let me just say something about it. Anyway, remember, I'm your Edo queen. I try to keep it real, because at the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters, you know. Yeah. See you guys on my next post.
I really need Africans to explain to me, what is the point of leaving your home country to migrate to a new country, only for the sole purpose of building your dream house to return back to the same country you migrated from? Millions of Africans leave home, drop every single thing they've built over the numerous amount of years they've been there, to migrate to a new country that doesn't respect your accolades. It doesn't respect the type of degrees you have. You're starting all over again from scratch, working tirelessly in very manually intensive and demanding jobs, putting your entire body through extreme wear and tear, to save up a little bit of money and struggle in this economy, then only to send that money back home to build a house for which you wish to return back to after you finished working and living here. It's sad and funny how most of these Africans have lived the exact same life, and their cycle will continue to repeat itself. I was watching a podcast, and this one brilliant entrepreneur said that his dad had lived in the UK for almost 40 to 50 years, living and working every single day just to send money back home to build his house for retirement. He never even got to live in the house. He died from 2 strokes. If you're planning on migrating, please have a plan. Come here with the sole intent to further your career, your financial stability, anything for you to gain capital and invest that back home. That will drive anything that you're trying to build, anything, your life, your future family's life, anyone's life.
I love when people make this comment in particular when it comes to like talking about diaspora, saying that they don't want to go back to their home country. The answer can't just be to flee and not work on fixing your home country. Who's going to stay to build the infrastructure? Let me explain something to you. It is not my job. It is not my job as a person who was born and raised in America to go back to Nigeria to fix the infrastructure. Nor is it the citizens of Nigeria's job to fix the infrastructure. You know whose job that is? The government's job. You know why? Because the government is set up to do that. I don't think that the average person doesn't have an excavator to be on the freeway and the highway. The average person can't set up proper ambulatory service in a whole country. The reason why Ghana looks the way it does and has the improvements that it has is because the government did the work. It is the government's job to do that. And I'm not a big fan of pushback and all that stuff, but at this level, it's the government's job. And you might be wondering, because everyone wonders, well, why does the Nigerian government not improve the country? Capitalism, greed, corruption, all the things we've been saying. It's going to take something drastic for Nigeria to really change. But when people make this comment, it sounds good. There's certain things that sound good when you say it, but it really don't add up. Becoming a doctor in the United States or a nurse and wanting to go back and do things in your country is great, but you're not going to be able to fix the infrastructure and the fact that there's no ambulatory service and the fact that the roads are black. That's not the job of the doctor.
You look back and say, why is Africa not developing? Why are these countries not developing? Yes, it's obvious. They will not develop because the best amongst us are no longer amongst us. We do the business of planting and weeding and tendering and looking after, and someone does the business of harvesting. Now, how do you ask me why I'm still hungry and my field and economy is not developing, yet blatantly you can see that our entire investments as poor African countries are only breeding a harvesting ground of the international community who come and flaunt scholarships and harvest our children away from us.
Let me talk about me for a second. I pretty much got everything I once prayed for. I migrated to the West. My children are educated in the West. I make enough money to live comfortably. If you spoke to 25-year-old me, this is exactly the life he wanted. Back then, I packed my bags with ambition. I told myself I was going to find opportunity. I told myself I would build something better. I told myself I would escape limitation, and I did. But now, years later, I sometimes sit quietly and ask myself a hard question. Am I part of the problem? Because if I'm being honest, my life mirrors the very issues we talk about on this app every day. I left, and that's brain drain. I contribute my skills somewhere else, and that's lost capacity for my country. I built stability for my children, but not necessarily in the place that built me. When I look back at home, my country, my compound, my people, I don't just see problems, I see gaps. And I know that at some level, I'm inside that equation. That realization is humbling. When you're 25 or 26, you dream about living, you dream about airports, you dream about foreign opportunity, you dream about earning in strong currencies, you dream about better systems. You don't dream about responsibility. Who does at 25? You don't dream about structural consequences. You don't think about what happens if everyone like you lives, right? But now I look back and I see it clearly. We cannot all keep getting up and living. If the ambitious live, if the educated live, if the disciplined live, who stays and builds? Here's the irony that bothers me. While we are leaving home to look for opportunity abroad, They are flying in to secure our contracts, our land, our minerals, our influence in our own backyards. We exit, they enter. That contradiction sits with me every day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not condemning myself. I'm not pretending I made a foolish choice. Migration gave my children security. It gave me exposure. It gave me perspective. But awareness changes everything. The older I get, the more I realize something uncomfortable. The problem is not just corruption. It's not just politics or policy. It's also us as a people. It's our collective decision to outsource our best years somewhere else. And I include myself in that. Maybe I'm moving in the right direction simply because I'm thinking about it now. Or maybe awareness is the first step. I don't know. The more you grow, the more you see that development is not accidental, it's deliberate. If we do not become deliberate about building home, then home becomes something we only visit, not something we strengthen. Look, I don't have all the answers. I have never pretended that I do, but I know this. We cannot keep dreaming of escape as the highest form of success. Think about this for a second. Our highest form of success as Africans is leaving home to go build a life abroad. That's our highest form of success. That's our problem right there. We need to start dreaming of return, of contribution, of structure, of strategy. We need real solutions, investment frameworks, diaspora engagement models, structured capital, coordinated influence, solutions. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. But I know I'm not alone. Maybe the beginning of fixing something is admitting that you're standing inside it. Things have to change. They have to change. And if I'm honest, that change probably starts with people like me. Let's move.
The illusion of a better life outside of Africa. They told us the dream was outside there, but out there, we lost ourselves. We left for opportunity, for hope, for something better, but found racism, isolation, and a version of success that made us strangers to ourselves. We wear winter coats with heavy hearts, smiling pictures, but barely surviving. We send money back home, but send it with a heartbreak. We smile for family, but inside we are tired. Maybe the dream isn't out there. Maybe it's back home, waiting to be remembered. Let's talk about it.
Isn't it funny that some people who complained that abroad life is so difficult? It's work, 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 and work. You don't have time to rest, which is true. There is loneliness, there's depression. Oh, this is too much. We don't have a life. Africa, there's life in Africa. In Nigeria, people are enjoying. Yeah, we are just suffering. We are working, no time to rest. Working day, night, afternoon, inside winter. There's depression, there's this. Then when immigration knock at your door to deport you back to Africa, why are you not running? We complain. Now come and go to the Africa. You are running, you are jumping back window and running into the bush. Why are you running? Isn't that funny? You see, this is the true definition of suffering and smiling. You are in a situation. Yeah, you said it's not good. But for you to leave that position, it becomes difficult. I'm not laughing because it's a lie. It's a fact. But you see, oh, you will not understand.
Would you actually send your own children to Africa if you was in fear of them obviously joining the wrong group or the wrong gangs or anything like that?
Do you know, it's a tricky question because, Melinda, as you know, when I was growing up, that's something you guys are the same, you hear that a lot.
100%.
I'm going to send you back. I'm going to send you back. Anything small, when I did my hair for the first time, when I did look, the child has gone wrong. I'm going to send you back. For me, with my own kids, I've kind of reconditioned myself to not see Africa as the place to just go for discipline. So I think I would actually love to just send my kids back to Uganda with myself to just live there for a little bit. Just to see, because when I was in Uganda and I just saw Ugandans everywhere, I was like, this is lit. So actually for me, I think I don't want my kids to see Uganda or Africa as a place you go when you be naughty.
A punishment.
I actually want them to want to move there for a little bit.
I like that perspective. Now.
That is a good, to switch it around.
Ugandans will know this. Most Ugandan kids growing up in London, the first word they know is Njakukuba, which means I'll beat you. Everyone knows that one. And I've had to recondition myself to not see the Luganda language as a negative language. Because most people haven't always been loved in Luganda. You know what I mean? It's always in Yakukuba, Jangwano. It's just everything's always like a punishment. So I'm also learning to see Luganda as actually it's not all punishment.
If you are first generation African, but you live in the Western world, like the US or Europe, come to the front. At some point, we have to stop seeing Africa as only a vacation destination, a family obligation, or someplace we go to just eat good food and take cute pictures. Because what I realized after living in Senegal is that home is not just where we grow up or what we're accustomed to. Home is where we can walk around freely without being looked at as intruders, or where we can heat up our cultural dishes at work without ending up in an HR report. Home is where opportunity is actually for us, but only if we seize it. I mean real opportunity, problems that need solutions, markets that are still being built, consumers who are smart and loyal, but somehow still deeply underserved. Young people who deserve better infrastructure so they can actually have career opportunities. Communities that deserve brands and companies that build with systems that keep them in mind. Living in Senegal honestly really changed me because I stopped seeing Africa from the outside. I stopped seeing the gaps and started to actually see the possibilities. And one of the biggest things I noticed was how many women are navigating wellness in silence and confusion, but not enough access to products, to the education, or to brands that actually spoke to them with dignity. And honestly, that is what pushed me to create Pink Wellness, because I believe that African women deserve wellness brands that are intentional, informed, and actually built for us. But honestly, this is bigger than Pink, and it's not even about Pink right now. This is about a generation of Africans. Honestly, I think 2 generations of Africans within the diaspora that have access to the education, to the networks, to the capital, to the technology, and to most importantly, the global perspective. Imagine if a fraction of us brought our creativity, our education, and our capital back home, not to exploit, not to perform, not to be saviors, because trust, our people are strong, they don't need saving, but to build, to partner, to create jobs, to solve major problems. Because the truth is, Africa does not need pity. Africa needs builders that actually care about Africa. And that's us. Next time you visit home, I want you to visit differently. Look for what is missing. Look for what people complain about every day. Look for where your skills can fill in a gap. Because sometimes the opportunity that you're begging for in the West is waiting for you back home. Just don't underestimate the place that you came from. Our parents left so that we can have more. It's our turn to build more so people do not have to keep leaving.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.